Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome back for another episode of Talking Taboo. I'm your host, Trista, and alongside of me, I have my co hosts, Ms. Hasna Deanna, Psych Perspective, and Pranisha. So, y'all, we have another great episode tonight for you all. We're going to be talking about toxic and absent mothers. Okay. Now, before we start to dive into tonight's discussion, I want to remind you that last week we discussed absent and toxic fathers. And if you weren't able to catch that live show, you're still able to watch the replay on our Facebook or YouTube channel. Just make sure that you search Chainbreakers Talk Show, and that video should come straight up. And of course, what I like to do is give you all just a snippet of what you missed on last week. Check it out. What were your relationship like with your fathers?
My biological father was pretty much non-existent.
Not fair for a man, because mostly that's who does it, to make a child.
Yeah.
And you get to carry on your life like it's all good.
So you have those present yet absent fathers, and then you have those absent and toxic fathers.
Right.
Or you have those present, absent, toxic fathers.
My heart breaks for humanity. I'm so afraid of the world we're living in now. I'm so afraid, because if you can do that to your own child, my God.
You want her to be in her femininity and be submissive, but then you don't want to take lead and provide and protect. Like, you can't sit up here and want traditional gender roles, but then you don't want to fulfill your part.
I pay child support for my kids. I shouldn't, but I pay child support for my kids, and I feel like a lot of times men that do, the ones that are paying child support are the ones that, in my opinion, should not be paying child support. The ones that aren't paying child support are the ones that should be.
This is the one that kills me on social media.
We don't have a lot of stand-up men anymore. They're being raised by a single mother. There's no father or figure in the picture to teach them how to be that man.
Because, honey, I'm grown now. And if a man ain't about to help cook, clean, take care of my son, look, if you're not about to help me out, I'm not about to sit here and take no extra responsibility. I got enough on my plate. If you're not about to lighten the load, I don't care about no ring. I don't care about no tie. I don't care about none of that stuff.
You will always see, again, cisgendered men constantly talking about how, they're against abortion. In the meantime, you abort your child every day.
So I just want to say this has been a great topic, and I really do think that with the absent fathers and the toxic fathers, it does start in the home when they're young.
I blame parents, because they are responsible for what you receive and what you don't receive. Because at the end of the day, had you been in a different environment with loving parents, I'm sure you would have turned out differently.
Oh my gosh,
that was last week's episode. Again, that was just a clip. Make sure that you go back and watch the replay if you have not yet. All right, y'all. Now brace yourself and get ready for this discussion today on toxic and absent mothers. Okay. Now, y'all, this topic is one of the most tabooest topics ever. I personally believe that we will talk about racism before we talk about mothers. Why do you believe that this topic is so taboo and people don't want to acknowledge that we have toxic mothers out there? Why? I'm gonna start with you, Syed.
I think, for me, it comes down to the fact that people don't want to think that women can harm people or mothers can do any harm to their children. That's one of the, to me, the biggest stereotypes is just that, oh, well, a mother would never. That's not what women do. And it's like, okay, be surprised.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Hasna?
Woo!
Give it to us, girl.
I agree with Syed. It's like women always get a pass with a lot of things, and it's just like, oh no, I don't think the mother will do this, or not the mother, like he said. So, yeah, I'm with him on that one.
Mm-hmm. What's your take on it, Nisha?
I guess the same. I feel like females are held to
like a higher standard. You know, we are held to a higher standard. So, you know, nobody wants to think, oh, she's not being a good mom, or she's not this, she's not that. Because that's what we're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? So if we fall short of what we're supposed to be, nobody wants to acknowledge that.
Right. Now, why do you all think we're held to a higher standard as women?
Honey, I wish somebody would tell me. Because I get tired of being Superwoman. Y'all tell me why.
Yeah. Now I want to dive in. Hostin, were you saying something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Now I want to ask you all, what was your relationship like with your mothers, and how has that relationship impacted your life? I'm going to start with you, Psych.
Ooh. So, I mean, okay. And, you know, here we go. I love my mom, you know, and I get things where she went through a lot herself, you know, and that's the thing that I'm learning through therapy is that, you know, and it's not to justify, but it's to also realize, you know, to paint a bigger perspective that she went through a lot as well. For me, our relationship was always just tipsy-turvy because it's like it was more like having a bigger sister than an actual parent. Once again, my grandmother and grandfather raised me, but my grandmother pretty much, you know, was the mother, did most of that there, but then there was reasons behind that, you know, as a child I didn't understand, but now more as I'm healing and going through therapy, I'm like, oh, okay. But still, you know, it was just, and then when I think about how it impacts me as an adult now, you know, knocking at 30, my relationships in general are also tipsy-turvy, you know, and that's sad. But I'm able to recognize it because of therapy and counseling and recognizing like these are toxic patterns, but I'm used to the abandonment, the neglect, you know, people being here and then disappearing, because that's how it was for me with my mom. You know, she was in and out when I was younger. She was very much in and out. But, you know, she was there when she could be and stuff, but it was just, you know.
Yeah, totally understand that. Totally understand that. What about you, Nisha?
Like, oh, yeah.
Lord. Okay. So I told y'all last week, coming up, I was molested by my mom's boyfriend, not my biological dad, but my youngest sister's dad. My mom didn't believe me, so that kind of affected our relationship. I would say I kind of felt like I didn't have a mom. I would say I kind of been out early, like in the streets, like trying to figure out life on my own at an early age. We recently, because I'm doing therapy too, so I would say within this last year, I just, you know, had those real conversations with her about how those things, my childhood affects me, how it affects me now, how, you know, I've been dealing with depression my whole life, how I, you know, had like suicidal thoughts throughout my life and all that. So I had to, you know, figure out what the root problem was. And those are conversations that we have recently just started having.
Okay. Well, that's good, Nisha. That's really good. What about you, Hasna?
Growing up, my relationship with my mother was very toxic. If you see us today, you would never think that it was like that. I mean, on the first show, you guys heard a little bit of her speak and stuff. And just from that little bit, you would never think that we had like a really toxic relationship, but we did. It was to the point where it was times where we could get into arguments and it was just like, you would never believe that we were mother and daughter.
Yeah.
It was like we were enemies. And I don't even think she understood why we were enemies at a point in time, you know, until we really started having real conversation. Like lately, within our 3 shows, we've been talking about conversation. Conversation is important, you know, because a lot of times, a lot of unspoken hurt
Yes.
take place, you know?
Right.
So, growing up, you know, my mom had me at a very young age. So I grew up like being her best friend instead of her daughter. And it was times where I needed my mother and not that friend, you know, and she wasn't there to, you know, to protect me at times when I thought she needed to be. I'm also a victim of molestation. My aunt's husband, well, her ex-husband, molested me for years, and it was kept from my mother. You know, a lot of the times, like, I was mad at my mom because I'm like, where are you while all of this is going on?
Yeah.
You know, you guys are sending me to live over here with this person, but you don't understand what's going on underneath this roof. So I was angry for a very long time, and it caused us to like just clash all the time until maybe just a couple years ago, where I just started doing this healing. And I was like, listen, I'm approaching everybody that has breath in their body, that has ever done something to me and has scarred me in some kind of way. If you have breath in your body, we're gonna have a conversation one way or another. So, you know, today is a whole lot better. My mother is a beautiful individual, always been, but it was some things that happened to her in her life. So where, you know, in her case, I really do think that she did the best that she could for me. But yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
Okay, I appreciate you sharing that, and I'm loving the hope that you all are putting out there just with your stories. With my situation, and I know I shared a little bit of this as well, but for me, I am the third of four children, and growing up, well, let me split this in two halves. I like to think that it's the pre-healing portion, and then there's the after healing and the recovery portion. Okay. During the pre-healing portion, you know, when you're caught up in dysfunction, you're still in the fog of everything. You think your family's healthy, ain't nothing wrong. Okay. During that moment, I'm not going to say that I felt like we were close, but my mom did always prefer to be around me. Like we were always together. And a lot of people on the outside thought that, you know, we just had this close relationship, but actually it was enmeshed. It was an unhealthy enmeshment. And a lot of what you see in, you know, certain families and situations and relationships may look like closeness, but it's actually toxic. It's a toxic enmeshment. So that's what we had. So she would always see me. We were like the Doublemint twins. People would always see me with my mom. However, after starting to basically wake up and transition into seeing the light, so to speak, I realized that I was basically meeting my mom's unmet needs because my mother died when she was like 8. And at that moment, you know, back in the day down south, they had like 11, 12 kids. So they split everybody up or whatever. So basically, she was kind of like living with other people as well, fending for herself, etc. So I noticed that it seemed that I was that parent figure in her life. And she was probably drawn to me more because I was that more, I guess you could say, more empathetic child, so to speak. So I believe that she was kind of utilizing me for that. So for me, it came across like our relationship was more of a parentified relationship. I was the parent, she was the child. It's how it was set up. But the thing I don't like about that is that people want to be the parent when it's convenient for them. So that's just a very sticky, unhealthy situation. So anyway, looking at it now, we actually didn't have a relationship because I was meeting her needs, but my needs weren't getting met. So Nisha, I can relate to you on what you said. It felt like you never really had a parent, because looking at it now in my recovery stage, I never really had a mother. Even though we were present together all the time, I never really had a mother. So that's my story. Okay. This is actually another question I want to ask. Okay. What is your definition of a parent doing their best? What do you definition of that? I want to explore that a little bit more because I think that we all have our different
First of all, that's a whole cop-out.
We all have our different interpretations, and perceptions of things based on who we are, and that's okay. Because we hear that word thrown around so much. So I just want to explore that a little bit, okay? Hassan, I'm going to start with you. What is your definition of a person or a parent doing their best?
Okay, in my case, I believe, in my case, with knowing who my mother is and how she is, I truly believe that my mother did her best of what she had, of what knowledge she had. She did the best she could for me. My mother she always took care of me financially. But when the mental and physical part of it came, I didn't have that connection and bond with her.
Yeah.
Where I am now, I'm able to say, for me in my situation, that she did her best is because at that time, she was going through something and was trying to work through what she had present for herself. So she could only give me what she had.
Right.
So my mother is a very loving person, and I always felt that she loved me, but it was still something missing.
Right.
And the thing that was missing is the things that she couldn't even give herself. She didn't know how. Even as an adult, in adulthood, I'm able to teach my mother some things that she's just learning, and she's my mother. I spend a lot of time helping my mother heal, and sometimes even mothering my mother because she just didn't know. So for me, when I say my mom did her best, I really believe in my heart that with who my mother is, she did the best that she could for me. And the times where she didn't give me more, she apologized for those things, and she did better.
Okay. All right. What about you, Nisha?
I don't know. It's so hard. It's hard. It's so hard for me to answer these questions because I'm like you. I have the aspect of when I was coming up, and then I have now where we have these conversations and stuff now. So I'm like you. Being a single mother myself. I have to be realistic and think maybe she did do her best. She had 4 children. I'm pretty sure that's hard. It's hard with one. You know what I'm saying? She worked all the time. She went to school, so she wasn't home, which I find myself in that pattern sometimes as well, So it's like, she had to pay the bills, so she couldn't always physically be there. So maybe possibly she couldn't be there to prevent what happened from happening. I don't know. Now that I'm older, I try not to just point fingers like that. But then also I'm a mother too. I don't care. Like if my son was to come to me and say somebody touched him,
right?
Look, I'm gonna act first and I'll ask questions later. So that part is some stuff I still can't wrap my mind around.
Right. And that's understandable. And what I think we need to realize too, just as people in general, that you can feel multiple ways at one time. You don't have to condone it. You can still have anger towards it. You can feel however you feel. And I think that's another part of healing that's so important. We have to stop feeling that emotions and feelings are shameful. You know what I mean? That's how you can't heal without feeling, and it just ain't gonna happen.
But that's the whole thing. Like, I'm pretty sure most of us weren't brought up to be emotional or feel those things because it's you want to shut up and do what I tell you to do.
Right.
Let you, how was your day? I ask my son all the time, how was your day? Did you have a good day? How was school? I try to engage those type conversations, but I didn't have those conversations coming up. I didn't have I love you. I didn't have no hugs. I didn't have no nothing, So that's even a struggle to deal with the emotional part because that wasn't normal or something that I even, was raised to even deal with. It's always anger. You know, I had always built up anger and ready to fight and just, so the emotional part, like even now I have days I'm just crying. I don't even know why I'm crying. You know what I'm saying? But I carry so much, so many years that it's just like I got to let it go. You know what I'm saying? I can't enjoy life and be the best me if I'm holding on to all that stuff.
All right. What's your take on it, Sight?
Again, sending everybody on the panel, you know, on the podcast, love, and everybody out there that's dealing with this, love and positive energy, because this is a lot. This is heavy. I definitely feel like, again, like all of you basically have said, it's like, you know, you have multiple feelings. You know, looking back, I see like my mom to me did do the best, you know, that she could do. Looking back, I mean, with everything that she was dealing with, that she was carrying, all of the burdens and trauma that she had went through and endured, on top of dealing with her own mental health battles. So I look back and think, you know, for my mom, she was always a hard worker, always had money, always could get money, but wasn't, it's like she was there finance, like she would, like growing up as a child, she would be like absent. You wouldn't know where she was, or even like, you know, what part of the country she was in many cases. But you could always expect, all right, a Nintendo 64 done got mailed to the house. You know, it's your birthday, but it's your third grade birthday. So you turn 8. She's not there, but I remember that N64. You know, and it's just like, okay, you know, and it would bother me as a kid, just like, you know, like, dang, where my mom, you know. But then it's like, looking back, I get it. You know what I mean? I'm able to understand it better. I'm able to see her perspective. And it's still, like I said, it's still a tipsy turvy, you know, because I be angry, but then I realize, like, okay, you know, I can reason and understand. And then I'm also learning, like, you know, life is short, you know, and it's like, I don't want to continue to harbor that anger 24/7. So that's where I'm at.
Can I add one thing to that whole thing? I feel like I don't know if it helps, but I feel like how you were saying your mom does, you know, financially she was there, but she wasn't physically there. And I feel like that's the part I'm at right now in my life with my son. Like, I have my business, I'm trying to build my business. I know I'm away from him a lot, but he get whatever he wants. But I don't know, does it make it better that I explain to him, this is what mommy's dealing with? This is, you know, I tell him, like, I'm not going to always be this way. I'm trying to set things up so you're good. I'm trying to pave the way for you. I tell him I deal with depression. Like, as best as I can explain stuff, I try to explain it. I don't know if that helps a child, you know, or not. It don't change the situation.
Yeah. I feel like it gives them a understanding of what's going on instead of your presence just being, you know, not existing. You know what I mean? Like, it's giving him, okay, mommy is not here, mommy's at work. It's not like, where's my mom? What is my mom doing? When is my mom coming? You know, it's not that. So the fact that you're able, you know, to have those conversations with him and explain to him what's going on, you know, a lot of the times back then, parents didn't explain anything to us. It was just like, I'm grown, don't worry about it, I'll be back. You know, and it leaves you, like, sometimes, I know for me, my mom used to work, you know, she would work 3 to 11, 11 to 7. And I knew before I went to bed, I wanted to lay eyes on my mom. I wanted to see her. I wanted to smell. Let me tell y'all, no lie. I am 36 years old, right? And I can tell when my mother has been in the building because I can smell her. My mom has had the same scent and it's the most, like, sweetest scent ever. And I remember just being a kid smelling it. Now as an adult, I'm like, I want to smell that before I go to bed, you know? So it's like the fact that you are explaining that to him, I think it helps.
Yeah, me too. Okay. When I think of the best you can. For me, I think of exhausting all options. I think of counseling, actually doing whatever it takes to better yourself. That's what I think when I hear of the best you can. Because to me, let's think about it, somebody abusing or abandoning kids, was that really their best? You see what I'm saying? Like, or was that their worst? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it now. I do believe that people can only give what they have. So for instance, if you only have hurt, pain, that's all you can give.
That's all you're going to get.
If you have love, you're going to pour that out. Your children are going to be able to feel it. So broken people break people. Broken people break people. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think that a lot of people necessarily do their best. Hell, I don't even do my best. But I don't think necessarily people do their best. I think that people can only give what they have.
Yeah.
But I don't think everybody does their best for the most part. Now, next question, you guys. What do you all think is behind? What do you all think is behind a lot of the rivalry, competition, and jealousy that some mothers have with their daughters?
Honey, can you answer that? Because I don't know. I want to know this myself.
Have you all ever thought about that?
I could be wrong. But what I believe is that the jealousy comes in from the parents not being able to be as outspoken as the children are today. Because back then they couldn't do that. So now when you look at the children today, they're more opinionated. A lot of the kids now are really fulfilling their dreams at a young age. So where then you didn't do that. You were doing what everybody expected of you.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So now in this generation, everybody is doing what they want to do. Whatever makes me happy, I'm doing what makes me happy. So I think it comes in, the jealousy sets in there because it's like, well, damn, you get to do this and you get to be who you are, but I couldn't be that and do that back then. So as crazy as it seems, we have to think back that they too had a childhood that may have not been the best childhood. So now you look at your children and their childhood is better than yours, and that jealousy sets in.
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of disagree.
Go ahead.
I agree to a certain extent. I can agree as an adult that you can feel like your adult child is living a better life than you did, whatever the case is, or they're raising their kids a different way. I can understand that, but as a kid, and you feel some envy towards your child.
But you have to think, even though, now I understand exactly what you're saying, but you have to think, even though we grow in age, mentally, some people don't grow.
That's true.
So now you're stuck. You're stuck in this, in your childhood, even though you done birth children and you're doing certain things, that mental hasn't gone past that 15-year-old child that was abused or whatever took place. So now you're looking at your child and the things that you went through, your child hasn't even touched some of it.
But what do you think as a parent, you want your child to do better? You want your child, you would want your child to have a better life than you would. That's the whole purpose. Why would you want your child to struggle? Why would you want your child to be in the situation you were in? You would want better for your child. That part, I don't.
It's one of those. It's touchy. You know what I mean? But it's touchy, and it's a situation that many may not understand, but it's real.
Yeah.
Somebody said a lot of parents had their kids at a young age, like teenage. Yeah, because I couldn't imagine having a kid my mom had me at 17. I couldn't imagine having my son at 17.
Now imagine my mother had me at the age of 14 years old. What do you know about being a parent at 14?
Listen.
What do you know? You're a kid.
Right.
You don't know anything. All you know is that something is growing inside of you. And you have some people who, even though they're young parents, once they had that baby, they became something different. Sometimes, they say children can be a blessing and a curse. With some of these people, some of the people that's out here, their children has really saved their lives. And then you have some who just couldn't get past the hurt and pain that was done to them, that they're like, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't do this. Here you go. And then we have all these abandoned children.
Right.
I don't think anybody, and you know, I think it's so, people don't really touch on the fact of, you know, the absent and toxic mother, because we are naturally supposed to be nourishers. Like, we're supposed to nurture.
That's
you know
the assumption.
So right, that's who we are built to be. So when you hear that, it's like,
but that's the assumption of what we're supposed to be.
I really met a
you can't be or get what you don't have or what you don't.
Yeah,
which is true. But that's what I'm saying. That's the assumption. So with everybody assuming the same thing,
right now,
what happens?
Where do you all? Okay, where do y'all think? Oh, I already kind of touched on this. I'm just wondering, like, who started this stuff? Who created that women are supposed to be these nurturers?
You know, feel like during slavery, the black woman had to take care of these white folks' children. Had to be out slaving all. They had to be that. I think where else could it have came from?
Yeah.
Not only did they have to do that towards the white folks and stuff like that, but we had to do it to our own men too in slavery. Yeah. When your husband came back from being beaten on, he comes into the house crawling on his knees. Who picked him up?
Right. Mm-hmm. But I think they forget that at some point in time too. But that's a whole nother topic for us.
Like, who picked them up? So I think it's just in us. I think it's just naturally in us.
For real.
You know, now what I think is, and I'm kind of looking at my situation, because I do feel that there is some like competition and jealousy from my mom towards me. Seem like I'm the chosen one. But however, what I believe—
oh, don't be the chosen one, because then
what I believe it is, and this is just me, because I know that I am a cycle breaker, and ever since I was young, I moved different, just from everybody in my family. And I believe that a lot of the times people can look at you or your life, and they start to, you know, have ill feelings towards you because of the things that were like taken away from them. You know, what was happened to them in the past, you know, the things that they've done that they regret, you know, etc. And they look at you, and what I would do, you know, I would get inspired. That's just me. But for some people, it's like well, let me say this. I think jealousy is really admiration and something else. But for some reason, you know, they start to treat you a different type of way. So I've noticed that with my mom, there is competition and jealousy there from her. And that's what I think it is, because of what was done to her and how that affected her life. You know, she's looking at me and, you know, looking at the things that she wasn't able to do because of XYZ. Now, she can still go and do some of those things. I mean, it's never too late, but, you know. Hey.
And Trisha, I want to add in, because I tell you this all the time. Like, me and Trisha, we used to go to church together. I don't know how many years ago that was, but like, me being a single mother, I always like appreciated her, because she you know, she focused on her education. She didn't run out here and have children and all that. She always traveled. I think that is wonderful. I always give her props for that. So I don't know what I congratulate. I know most women, and I know you deal with that too, like hate on those things, like, oh, well, I can't do that.
Well, people tend to hate on what they can't have, but what they can't do.
That they can't. My thing is, who told you couldn't?
Because mentally they can't. Mentally they cannot get past. It's not always about an action that can be done right then and there. Some people are really stagnant because of where the mental is. And what we fail to realize, that mental plays a part in everything. If you are weak mentally, you can't move forward. You cannot put your best foot forward when you are mentally weak. Think about the days, Niche, when you are depressed and can't get out of bed. Or when you are depressed and you don't want to move forward. It stops you from doing everything, even the things that you know that you are capable of doing and that you're good at. You're not even thinking about that.
Right. Yeah. That's true. But you know, at the end of the day, we can't fault another individual for our shortcomings or whatever the case is.
Right.
In my case, I know I've dealt with depression for a long time, and I know even the fact I had to battle with myself. I need help with it. Like, I can't You know, like I had to get on medication, and that was a whole struggle. But I can't blame another individual for
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
and I feel like that's where we fall short as
Mm-hmm.
as Black people. We don't take accountability
Oh,
and
girl.
do the necessary steps for ourselves.
Because
you know?
it's easier to point the finger at someone than to
Yeah.
actually take ownership for the things that you can change.
Right.
You cannot hold. You can't continue to stay in the past. If you live in that past, you are screwing everything up.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to come to a place where it's like, and it's not the easiest thing to do. I would be lying if I'm sitting here like, girl, it's so easy and I've done it. No, yes, I've done the work, but baby, it was ugly. You know what I mean? It was nights where I cried before I had to get up to work at 3:45 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's days where I look at myself in the mirror like, girl, I don't even want to go in here today. I don't feel like it. But you got to get that strength to keep pushing because you know what you mean to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Forget who you are to everybody else. You have to start with self. And I think a lot of people, that's where we're going wrong. We're not working on ourselves. We're spending more time pointing the fingers of what took place in the past. So with Trista, who don't have children and can get up and go, you'll have that person who has multiple children who can get up and go. Now you mad at a person that you don't even know because you're looking at her pictures on Facebook and she just enjoying life. But now you pissed.
And you know what? Actually, another question that I had, the shame towards women in particular who don't want to have kids or choose not to go out and, you know, have children, like, you know, Vivica Fox, I think she mentioned something like that, Tracy Ellis Ross, for instance. And it's like they were getting backlash for saying that, you know, I want to be intentional, pretty much. That's something, yo, that's deep. It's deep and it's a struggle out here. What do y'all think is behind that? Why do we need everybody to fall in line?
That's those assumptions that you're supposed to, but at the end of the day, me as a single mother, I would not condone any woman to have a kid. I wouldn't even say if she's married, because it's married women who have kids and their husband, you know, it's still like they're single. It's still like the husband's not, he might financially be there, but he's not emotionally or mentally. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I feel like if you don't have that solid bond like that, why would you bring a child into it?
Right. You were going to say something, Syed?
I'm following up with, again, I feel like people look at women in particular or anyone that is able to give birth, you know, just people in general, they look at you weird when you get to a certain age. You 25 plus and you don't have kids, or they're looking at you like you're strange, and especially towards women. And again, people who can birth. And I'm just like, again, I think going back to what you just said, it should be intentional in the sense that you want, in my opinion, I would want a partner. We in this together. We raising this child together. You putting your best foot forward. I'm putting my best foot forward for this child. And then we also love and care about each other too. Oh my God. That sounds great. Like, okay, I can probably get with it. But I don't get the purpose in having kids. Just if in my opinion, now don't get me wrong, I get it. Shit, you know, oh, excuse me, I don't know. We try to get vindicated out here.
We keeping it real.
We try to be on XM. But I'm just like, I get things happen, but again, going back to what we said last episode, I feel like this is where comprehensive sexual education and then also access to like healthcare coverage so people can get birth control and different options available. But if you, in my opinion, for myself, I would, if I'm going to have children or be with somebody, I would want it to be with the person that I actually want to be with and raise the child together. So I don't fault women or anybody that gives birth or has a child or anybody that just doesn't want to be having kids with, you know, with anybody, because you want I get it. It's hard. You're raising a whole nother human being. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Time, energy, money, resources.
And
that's a lot.
It's not just 18 years, because even when they turn 18 and past that, you're still taking care of them.
You still be calling my mom up.
You never stop being a mother.
Like, hey.
You never stop being a mother
here right now.
For real, you never stop being a mother. Like if you stop being a mother the day your casket closed.
Right.
You get what I'm
even
saying?
then, you don't know the will, you don't get something.
Exactly. So it's like it's a never-ending story. Once you give birth to a child, or even take on that role as being a parent, because you don't necessarily have to give birth, but to just take on that role and being a parent, once you sign up for that, that's it.
Right. Yeah.
That's a deep commitment, and I mean. That's why for me,
and let me tell you, that's a commitment on a whole nother level, because if you can't commit to a person that you help conceive or decide to sign on a dotted line to take care of, then you can't commit to nobody.
Yeah. Yeah. That is something, because what I've seen a lot of the times are mothers who would have children, and they could either be single, a single parent, or in relationship. And depending on who's the father of that child depicts how they treat that child. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? And I think that's the worst thing that you could do, because children can feel that. And that creates a lot of what we're going to talk about next week, a lot of the sibling rivalry that you see in families. To me, the parents create a lot of that ruckus between siblings. And I just wish that siblings could wake up and come together, to be able to buck that system and break that cycle. But that's something you're gonna have to pray about, because stuff can get real when it comes.
It happens because it's always a comparison, though.
Yeah,
you notice people are always comparing one child to the next.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We're different.
Yeah.
Allow me to be different. You get some children who may be smarter than the other. It's okay. Right. Well, where I'm weak and you're strong, help me.
Right.
Exactly. We a family. We're supposed to support each other. So like, yeah.
And I feel like in my case, because like I said, my mom has 4 children. My mom was struggling more because she had my brother at 15, me at 17. So when my other siblings came along, she's doing a little better in life. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't deal with what we dealt with. So it always seemed like there's division there. Like,
because
y'all don't understand the struggle that we saw. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so, that's sometimes an issue too.
Mm-hmm. So let's next talk about the coddling that some mothers do towards their sons. And let's discuss it. Let's discuss it, because that is a huge issue. It's a huge issue. Woo. And I know so many people want to blame slavery, this and that, but okay, let's talk about moving forward. This is a problem we need to address.
People want to blame stuff that they didn't even live through.
I think it's blaming stuff they didn't live through, but I think it's stuff that's passed down. It ain't that they're blaming it. It's just been passed down and nobody sees the problem to fix it.
Right. And it still leads to blame, though. It still leads to blame. You will have people sit here and try to tell a whole story that they done watched on YouTube and try to make it their own. Stop trying to make everything your issue. Like, granted, yes, slavery is real. Yes, we went through it. Yes, but we can never sit here unless we experienced it ourselves. Sit here and try to compare what took place back then to what's going on now.
No, but we can talk about how parents, like we're having this conversation, how they acted back then, and next generation, until somebody like us come along and change it, you're going to be in that same pattern.
And I totally
not blaming. That's until somebody sees like, oh, this is a problem. How can we fix this problem?
But nobody really wants to fix. Everybody still want to blame.
Yeah.
It's still you have to identify there's a problem before you can fix the problem.
Yeah. But nobody wants to identify.
Right? That's what we're doing here.
No, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But we're 4 people who decided to come together and where we are in life. But no, we don't have all the answers. No, things are not perfect. But wherever we stand in life, we have a slight understanding. It's billions of people in the world. So think about, okay, out of us four, we can go stand in a room full of people, and how many people gonna blame the white man for something that they was responsible for? Right. It's so easy to point the finger in the blame game.
And this is how I feel about it. Like, for me, my ancestors can blame the white man who lived it. But for that child, your mom and daddy did it. Exactly. You see what I'm saying? To that child, I never heard a child say, "Oh, the white man did this." No, your mom and your daddy didn't give you what you needed. Exactly. Worrying about slavery,
but somehow slavery. But somehow in there they gonna blame the white man. Mm-hmm.
Right. So
it's like, come on, God, we got to do better here. Like, we have to take account. It goes back to accountability. Like, right. Okay, I understand that things wasn't good in your life. Let's be real. The four of us here, right? We can either relate or we have our own story. Mm-hmm. Everybody in this world has a story. Mm-hmm. I'm sure if you gathered everybody is a story to tell. Even within white families, I work with some people who has struggled. Mm-hmm. But yet we will sit, I'm going to say we, because we are all African-American on here. Mm-hmm. So we will sit and we will make it seem like as if they don't have any issues within their families, or they're not being molested, or they're not being, abused.
They going through it too, no, yes.
This is real.
Right. I think the only difference with them is most of them, I had a white lady tell me, she was like, for every one black woman, and I'm just saying woman because this is just what a white woman told me. She said for every one black woman that goes to therapy, there will be 10 white women that will go. She said, y'all do not, take care. Basically, y'all take care of y'all mental health.
Mm-hmm. No, because we spend too much time blaming everybody for our mental health instead of getting to work and going to get the help that we need. We
need universal health care too.
Exactly. We feel like going to counseling makes us less of a person.
Weak. Yeah, it makes you weak.
How does that make and it's not that you hear, oh, you're weak because you're doing this. Oh, you're weak. Everything is labeled to weak, gay, or the white man. Like, I'm so
literally them the three boogeymen.
Now listen. Once I started my healing journey, I started joining like a lot of these support groups on Facebook, and it's at least probably 95% of them are Caucasian race. And I mean, they tell it like it is. They walk away from their parents left and right.
I'm telling you,
listen, I'm telling you, they'll be like, my mother's a bitch. Like, I'm telling you, they don't play. But when it comes to us, like, it's like
trauma bond, honey. We codependent.
And one thing I noticed as well is once I started kind of talking more about my story and connecting with some people, I know that people in the Asian culture, Hispanic, all of them have toxic parents. So this is my question. How did their issues get started? White people, some of the most severe cases of abuse I know are from Caucasian people that I know. You see what I'm saying? So my thing is this, how did their trauma start? If slavery started all of our issues, how did everybody else's trauma start?
Shoot, I feel like slavery started some of theirs too, because everybody back then was not prejudiced or racist. Mm-hmm. You had some, just like you have good white people and bad white people, you have good black people, you have bad black people. It's just about people being genuine and loving and kind and humanity. Like, it's not always, we make everything like granted. Yes, in reality, a lot of things is about race. Mm-hmm. It's to the point where something so simple as me driving my car the other day, I didn't want to drive it because I was waiting for my sticker renewal to come. And I kept thinking, even though I have it on my phone that I renewed my my registration and everything, what if I go to pull my phone out to show a cop?
Yeah.
And now I'm all
and you don't even know how that would turn out.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's all because why? Racism. I get that. You know what I mean? So I'm not dismissing any of that. And it's a shame that I have to feel like that. But it's like, we're not the only ones as African Americans that's going through something.
Right. We're not. Because
it's like we're the only ones who refuse to address what we're really going through.
Right. Every race I'm aware of have the same toxic, like, once I started talking to other people from other parts of the country, we all have the same issues. It may look a little different. We all got toxic behind parents that are controlling, narcissistic, the same issues, being verbally abused, mentally abused. It's the same issues across the board. Right. So it's not just a black thing. So
it's not a black thing, but I think we have to somehow get our people to realize, to identify these issues.
Yeah.
And what
Mental
measures
health
to take
matters.
to heal and to do better for us to be better as as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. Now back to these mothers coddling their sons.
Yeah, that's what we was talking
Yeah,
about.
we didn't even get on that.
Y'all know how we do, y'all. You get the four of us together, we just start going.
Okay, it's okay. Now back to that. I've witnessed some things, and I've heard certain stories, and what I see a lot of times is that a lot of the mothers, let's say if they're single mothers, for instance, and this isn't bash single mothers moment, but let's say if they are single mothers, a lot of times you see these mothers connecting with their son on almost an ancestral level, seem as if they're making up for the husband that they may not have. But
there you go.
What they don't realize is that it's very harmful. But then again, I guess in that moment, when you haven't had your needs met, it's like you don't really care about anybody else's feeling. When you're that, deeply traumatized, it's like you're only worrying about getting your needs met in that moment. And it's so detrimental to a lot of our men. And I personally believe that could be why a lot of our men aren't ready to be these stand-up men, for marriage, etc.
Yeah, because their mother keep doing everything to keep them home.
Yeah. Paying their bills, like
everything.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's sad. And it's like once the mother pass, they losing their mind. And I'm not saying you don't grieve, but if you're losing your mind when somebody something's wrong with that. If you're going that far, it's like that's a bit
because you're so like codependent.
Yes.
You don't know. You know what? I enjoy that my mother lives like a distance. You get what I'm saying? Because it allows me to miss her. And also I think differently. I always think like the distance in between people. I always say, sometimes this is kind of preparing me for the day that God calls you back. Because what happens is in life, death is real. That's something that none of us can avoid, no matter how much money you have, no matter how big your house is, no matter the color of your skin, right? So it's like you see a lot of these men who really go crazy or feel like they can't live without their parent because you have been under her guidance for so long, and you don't know what to do, you don't know how to separate from it. So it's like for me, with having separation from people in general, I always look at it. I treat a lot of situations like a death. Because with death, they go and life still goes on. The bills still come. Tomorrow will be Monday. You may cry, but life continues to go on. And it's like, I think with the mothers, they really, like you said, it comes from not having that man in their life that they want. So they raise their sons to be this ideal man that they want for themselves. It really comes. But
the jacked up part is they go out here and they don't become ideal.
Exactly.
It's like who you raised in Gremlins.
It's so crazy.
And then they're not being held responsible for anything, because if the son goes out and he gets married or whatever the case may be, then he don't know how to maintain his household. He get into an argument. The first thing he want to do is run home to his mom. Now make it comfortable for him. She still got the room that he had since he was young. So it's like, even when they move and get big homes, it's like, oh, I gotta have 5 bedrooms when there's only one you, because you got to make that extra room for your son. But if things don't work out, he can always come back home.
Right.
No, like,
and then not teaching any life skills.
No life skills. No, that's like my son yesterday. He was like, Mom, because we went and got in the pool. He's like, Mom, if you drowned and you die, he's like, I'm gonna die too. I said, little boy. I said, I'm gonna die one day. You got to keep living. You know what I'm saying? He only 8, but I'm just saying. But it's the same concept. Life goes, death is going to happen. That's part of life. Life goes on without me.
Life is for the living, and when a person dies, it's true. Things life goes on.
Now
It doesn't feel good. You
Right.
grieve. Like grieving sometimes becomes a never-ending story. You know, I took hits back to back a couple years ago with stepdads dying, family members dying. I mean, back to back. And I just was like, okay, God, I don't know what I'm supposed to be learning from this. But it was teaching me to live.
Right.
To live. You have to live, Deanna. You have breath in your body. You have overcome so many things that people thought you wouldn't be able to overcome. You have escaped so many things. Get out and live.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's even what I tell my mom now. I'm like, you know, you've been a teenage mom. You done went through these abusive relationships, all this stuff. And I don't watch all this stuff. Like her band of like 18 years just died like a month ago. I said, you done raised your kids and this dude done died. You need to live your life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At some point, you know, we only got one life to live. You can't live it for your spouse, your kids, even though we love our kids and we do the best we can for them and raise them. At the end of the day, we got to live our lives.
You know what? I like that I'm glad you just said that. Like, we only have one life to live. So I agree and I disagree. And the reason why I disagree is because every day I wake up, I'm living life. So every time, it's no guarantee that when I close my eyes, I'm going to wake up the next day. Right. So if I made it another day, it gives me another chance to live. So it's like you live life over and over and over again, and you die once.
Right. That's true.
That's how I look at it. And that's why I really take it as each day that God allows me to have breath in my body, I'm going to do something that I enjoy doing. I don't care if it's sitting on the couch all day watching TV. I'm going to enjoy whatever show that I'm watching.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, you really, and I think a lot of the times, because we are talking about toxic and absent mothers, I think as women, this is what happens because they don't know how to live. Right. Especially when you have children, your life revolves around your children. And then I just had a conversation with my mom. I said the hardest thing to do is be a parent and heal while you're trying to raise children.
Amen.
That's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
That is not easy.
Yeah, I can only imagine because, again, I just turned 38 and I don't have kids. And I would say that I'm somebody who have pretty much lived their single life and enjoyed it in a sense. And having have done that, I can't even imagine myself bringing a child into that right now. Like, I can't even imagine it because it would take over so much of my life. Like, it's something you have to be ready for. Like, you have to make sure that you're ready for it at this moment. I kind of toggle between the two. Like, I would like a child, but then it's like, okay, I'm okay with adopting a child too. But it's like, but I don't have the desire to be pregnant. I don't. But again, I think a lot of this comes because I've experienced my singleness. I don't have that obsession with relationships because that was just never really my focus. Like, I have to be in a relationship. So, y'all, it can be tough.
As we're sitting here talking, my sister is in the background yelling, "That is so me. That is so
me." Right. And it sounds so weird to a lot of people, but
it's real.
It is. It is. And those people can relate. If you feel what I'm saying, you can relate. But I can only imagine, like, even now, and I feel like I'm just in an emotional space to be able to possibly deal with a child, like just now. So I can only imagine had I had a child before now, I know I would have traumatized them.
Right, because you were traumatized. So it's to the point where now you are getting to learn who you are. You are finally enjoying who Trista is, not who Trista mom wanted her to be, or not what the family wanted Trista to be, but you are who you are to yourself. And it's important to put yourself first, that when you do decide, because I'm one of those people who really truly believe no matter how much money you have, no matter how big your house is, it's a mental thing. Your mental has to be ready for the child, not your bank account all the time, not how big your house is. It has to be your mental. You know what I mean? So with you being in a place where you're getting to know who you are, it's okay to not be ready because you're just getting to enjoy who you are.
Yes, you just not getting to have fun.
Right. And that's so true. It's just like, I would encourage any young person out there watching, focus on yourself, because the choices that we make, the relationships that we connect to can ruin your life. let's call a spade, can ruin your life. I'm telling you, y'all, there is a such thing as adding stress to your life. Your life don't have to be the way that it is. A lot of stuff, we're adding stress to our lives, you know, with a lot of these relationships. Y'all,
that we know for a fact that's not
we
good
know
for
is a
us.
red flag.
All it takes is one bad relationship can ruin your life. It was a young lady that just lost her life recently somewhere in Florence. I don't know her full situation, but I'm just like, oh my God.
Honey, that's a whole nother situation for
Yeah.
Because Lord, I'm going to tell y'all how about had to shoot me a mother effer.
Yeah. Now, y'all, what I want to do now, I know there's a lot of situations where we've heard of mothers defending their boyfriends or guys that they're dealing with, you know, over, you know, something that their daughter or son may have came to them about. I have a video that I want to show you all, and I want to kind of discuss this afterwards. I don't know if y'all have seen this before, but it's just a few minutes long. So let's check this out and we'll watch it later. I mean, we'll discuss it later. Okay.
Just like my mama. She told me at 6 or 7, if I got to choose between you and this man, I'm going to choose him. And I left. I walked down the street, called my grandma, and who came to get me?
Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. So interesting that you never remember the things that you inflict on others, but you remember what they inflict on you. His memory, look at me, is that his mother chose a man over him. Mm-hmm. This is the mother that exposed him to abuse. Mm-hmm. This is the mother that left him off with his grandmother. This is the mother that did those things to him, who now thinks she has the right and the privilege to tell him how to deal with his sister. And your unhealed stuff about being abused, you gotta get that handled. You can't keep imposing that on everybody. I have only known this young man 24 hours, and there's no way in the world, just reading his space, that I know he's gonna allow a man to abuse a woman in his presence.
She doesn't think about me that way. She doesn't.
Well,
because I just saw him playing basketball and going on dates together.
So what? Mind your business. You say that you don't see the man that your son is. So I'm asking you, since this is not a demonstration of a man, you need to tell me what man you're using to measure him with. Which one?
My idea.
Which is your idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that the idea you trained him up to be?
No.
Oh. So how in the blazing bejesus are you holding him accountable to a standard that you didn't teach him, his father didn't give him, he don't even know what it is, and yet as his mother, you sit in his face and tell him you don't respect him as a man? Tell me how that works. Help me.
Like I said, it was events. It wasn't just.
I'm talking about
and it's
one
also
thing.
how he treats me.
Yeah, but I'm talking. Hello.
So.
You see, you are a provocative victim. You provoke stuff, and then when you start being held accountable for it, then you start twisting and turning and making the other person wrong. Look at me, Ma. Look at me. Look at me. You just sat here and told your son, who ain't got a needle in his arm, who I'm assuming pays his own rent. He's married to a registered nurse. He's got 3 baby boys. And you just sat here in his face and said, I don't respect him as a man. Mm-hmm. And you don't think to consider what that does to his heart, to his soul, to his spirit.
I'm sure that's hurtful.
And you okay with that?
And it's hurtful for the things that he says.
There you go. You're doing it. You're doing it right now. You're doing it right now. I'm holding you accountable, and you spinning. You're spinning your web. You're trying to get away. You're trying to get away. Tell me. Here's the question. Just answer it. We'll get back to that other stuff later. Tell me.
Forgive me. I respect him. He's a wonderful man.
Do you understand that your mouth, your voice, your words are connected to the coils in his heart, to the valves in his heart? He can't help but love you. And every time you dishonor that love, you chip a piece of it, This is why in our culture as black people, when the boys turn a certain age, the men come and get him and take him away from the mother because she can emotionally manipulate him. But since we don't live in our culture no more, we say what we want to say, do what we want to say. We tear our men down and then wonder why they don't make good husbands and fathers. Mothers destroy sons. His mother can speak to him in certain ways that destroy him in ways that can never be repaired.
Ooh.
Yeah. That needs to be said.
Let's talk about it, y'all. What you feeling? It's like
I feel like a lot of times, again, back to what we said at the beginning of the podcast, people don't see women or mothers or feminine people being toxic or negative or abusive. They're never seen in that light. But a lot of times, again, your first bully is your mama or whoever is in that role, that parental role. And it's just like, it'd be grandmothers, it'd be mothers, it'd be sisters, it'd be aunts, it'd be whoever. Just always the verbal put downs, and, you know, making fun of you and joking and just like so dismissive. And again, if that's how you're talking to your child, you're supposed to be uplifting them and putting life into them and boosting their confidence and self-esteem. You doing the exact opposite. So again, it's like when I look at a lot of people in our community, and again, like you said, it doesn't matter really, regardless of social identity, race, ethnicity, what have you, these are issues. And it's like a lot of us don't have high self-esteem because it started at home.
Yes. Woo. Nisha, what you think? Any comments?
I felt bad for him.
Yeah. Because he seemed like he was really a decent guy trying, and she just seemed like she just had this vendetta, like she just has something against him, like without cause.
And how do you as a mother, like he said, like you're supposed to build your children up, because this is a cruel world, so we have to prepare to send them out into the world. So you need to send them out with confidence. You need to send them out as, I tell my son, ain't nobody better than you. You know what I'm saying? And I make, I don't make him, but, we do this thing where he say, I'm a prince, I'm intelligent, I'm this, I'm that. And I say, I'm this, I'm that, and the third, because I need your confidence to be, I don't need you to be arrogant, but I need your confidence up, because you're going to come against so much stuff in life, especially as a black, as you become a man, you're going to come up against so much in life. So for what I just watched, I don't know. If that was my mom, I couldn't deal with her, because it's like you're tearing me down. You're constantly tearing me down. You know what I'm saying?
And it's so many stories like that I know of personally, and that's why I go so hard for children, because only people can imagine so much of the stuff I had to advocate for. So many kids I had to stand up for. They deal with worse than that. You see what I'm saying? They deal with worse than that. And when people, they try to shame you back into submission. Oh, well, that's your mother. Oh, you only get one mother, and all of that bullshit. Like, I can't. I can't. Yeah. There's a lot of horrible mothers out there. Horrible mothers. But for some reason, and I think it has more to do with people not wanting to see their mothers as is, because once you start approaching these sticky topics, you're going to have to start addressing some of your back history, and people don't want to do that. So they'll rather silent shame and beat you back into your place of accepting whatever's going on than to deal with what's going on within them. So I think that's, oh my God, y'all, Hasna, what do you think about this? Like, this is just, it's too much, because this stuff is real out here. But for some reason, people think that parents, especially mothers, do no harm.
I'm kind of emotional right now.
Yeah.
That was sad to see.
Yeah, very.
That was sad to see, because it's so many children.
Yeah.
It's so many children that have to endure this.
Yes, so many.
On a regular. It's so many people. And it was like, even though it was that young man sitting there, for a minute, I put myself at that table. And maybe that's why it's so emotional for me. Because this is real, and people don't understand
Very
that
real.
you really can get torn down at home,
Mm.
and then you go into the world, and the world beats you down, and then you go back into that space where you're supposed to find comfort.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary that a person who is supposed to love you
Right.
can tear you down. But she'll go sleep with that man who means her no good. That's not even on the level of her son, or bring like what he's bringing as a man who was torn down from his mother. And I think another part of me becomes emotional because as much as my ex-husband and I don't get along, we don't talk, we don't do anything.
Yeah.
I pictured him sitting at that table.
So you have that compassion for it. Yeah.
My heart still goes out to him.
Yeah.
Even though that man has done me wrong. That man damn near took my life.
Mm-hmm.
But to know that his mother would talk down to him. His mother tried, abused him. His mother, it was like a story of her putting one of them in an oven and starving them and all kind of stuff. And to know that, I'm happily married now. But to know that I was with a man for so long who he had the potential to be a good man, but he was fighting the demons of the words of his mother. That's deep.
Right.
That hits me on a whole different level.
Right. Right. And it just makes me think as well, because, like I said, I've advocated a lot for a lot of my nieces and nephews. And there's one in particular that I think about who's been through harmful, to me, I feel like was scapegoated more. And I often just think about their life when they become an adult, like which way are they going to go? But then that same breath, I can't project Trista onto anybody, because I didn't have to endure verbal abuse, thank God. Right. I didn't have to endure that. But, looking at like some things that were said to my brothers, for instance, I can see that the words you speak to your children, it does determine the course of their life. So many people are out here defending mothers. You can't blame your parents. Like they're just defending mothers and not valuing the children at all. Like it breaks my heart. And unfortunately, those people, I just can't deal with them anymore. And I think it's more of a trigger for me. Like, even though I understand what's going on behind why they feel the way that they do, it's still, I can't deal with it at the moment. I just can't deal with that at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I got too much for me.
And stemming from what she said, I was in a relationship too where the guy tried to harm me, basically it got to where it was like I'm gonna have to get you, or you gonna get me type situation. But the same thing, like the mommy issues. He's like, oh, my mom beat me till I was bloody. I ran away at a young age. So you expect. They grow up and they're men in age, but not, they get love. They don't know how to, they don't know how to love a woman.
I see a comment here. It says verbal abuse is traumatizing.
It is.
It's some shit you will never forget, even if you do the healing work. And it shapes you. And it does.
It becomes your inner voice.
It does.
Yes.
Voice.
And that's why people be so negative all the time, because that's all we grew up around was negativity.
Exactly.
Somebody always talking down on you or saying what you can't do or what you're not about.
And you grow up and you really grow up thinking these things.
Yeah. And you fulfill that prophecy. You
really do. Yeah. And it's like, if you don't grab a hold of yourself or be connected to people. Right. I just put something like a safe place during healing. It's very important to have a safe place, because when you're healing, you're so vulnerable. Yeah, like it's so many things that can come from the healing, and then when you're finished healing, it's like you need a healing from the healing.
Right, and you have to like recreate yourself.
It's so much work that goes into this,
because you don't know who you are anymore. Like you're a different person.
Right.
There's a whole nother level of you that's being unleashed.
Yeah.
Right. It's so crazy because like me in the place I am now with like my healing, even as far as I feel like I struggled my whole life. Like I just bought a house a year and a half. No, it's been 2 years. 2 years ago, I got a business. Even like I've been stuck and just struggling my whole life. I don't even know how to accept or how to, how to just be in present. Like, I'm not in that space no more. Like, it's so hard to transition from this because this is all I know to, so I'm here, you know what I'm saying? So
it's very hard.
It is. So just imagine, like you said, if you've been verbally abused your whole life and you're an adult and it's like, like you got to talk, you got to kind of boost your own confidence up. And it's hard because you don't know no different.
And unfortunately, some people don't make it. I've heard stories in these groups to where people were saying, they were abused all their lives and how the brothers commit suicide or everybody don't make it. That's why I don't like the comment that people like making, oh, well, everything happened for a reason, or this made you
No.
That's very dismissive. Oh, well, why don't you just need to pray about it? That's very dismissive.
Trauma, this is some real stuff. Trauma is so misunderstood. It's a crime.
And everybody don't have to be molested or abused.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's sad that everybody can relate to that. Like, why are we allowing that to be a common occurrence in society? Like, no.
Right. It's horrible. Only if you knew what went on behind people's closed doors. That's all I'm going to say. Only if we really know. And if a lot of us are real with ourselves, we've been through some real stuff too. But so many people, they don't want to acknowledge it. They want to live in the now and shame. Yeah, but I can say, in my life, the people that I know with children should be in jail. I'm going to put it like that. They should be in jail.
And that's deep.
They should be in jail. I mean, it's for real. They should be in jail. And it's just, again, so many people deal with this, but you would never know.
And then people are also afraid to talk about it because even though they can relate, they still act like it's just like something wrong with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're the one who decided to speak up.
To talk about it.
There's something wrong with you, even though you can relate to what I've been through.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, I know I'm different because I'm one of those people, like, I'm not a person who I'm going to just walk around and just be like, oh yeah, and by the way, I was molested as a kid. But you know what I mean? What? You know what I mean?
And the fact that we...
and even though I'm laughing about it and it's not a funny manner, but
that's how our trauma response. Like, that's how we...
Exactly. That's how we process it. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
it's like, I'm not walking around doing that. But one thing about me is if I can relate to something, I'm going to share my story because there's no shame in my game. There's no shame in what I've been through because I feel like my story can help somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Everybody want to be so secretive that it's like, I went through this, but that's not something I want to talk about. Whole time you dying inside.
Yeah.
Right. But okay, so let's talk about briefly, y'all, the backlash and shame that you get when you do speak up. Because not only do you get it from your family, if you had whoever did it, whether it was a parent, a cousin, an uncle, not only do you get it from your family, but even when you try to talk about it to those outside, you get it a lot of time from society as well. You see,
everybody has this.
Right.
Everybody has this little who they portray to be. So when you hear that, I lived with my aunt for so and so years and her husband molested me from this time to this time, you won't believe it, or it's so hard for you to believe because the reputation of my aunt. I don't see that happening. Well, you don't know what I had to endure from the age of 11 to 17 years old. You don't know that. But I can tell you some stories of how things took place when she knew what was going on. But when I bring it to her attention today, it's like, that happened. I don't remember that. Yeah. And I get it. Maybe a lot of people don't want to remember the traumatizing areas of their lives and stuff like that. But guess what? Because I'm the one that happened to, I remember every single thing.
Right.
So don't dismiss me because you don't want to remember it.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? But that's what happens. So you get the backlash and then you're told, oh my goodness. And I have family and friends on here. My very close friend is on here. And we do a lot of just like healing and stuff together, right? But it was times where I got mad at her at a point in time when I decided to reach out to my aunt and have a conversation with her, who was a battered, broken woman and stuff like that. But I was having a conversation with her, and I didn't want to hear anybody telling me, but everybody is not on your level of healing. But everybody don't process this. I don't want to hear that.
Making excuses and just
at that moment, I didn't want to hear that. What I need for you to do is listen to what I'm saying.
Right.
Listen to how I'm feeling right now. And then at another day, we can talk about, okay, well, you know, Deanna, everybody is not at your level.
Right.
I get that. I'm not expecting you to be at my level, but don't act like it didn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't sit up here trying to make it out like you crazy.
And that's what a lot of people do. They act as if that whole I'm so traumatized, which I do believe it happens. You get what I'm saying? A lot of people don't want to remember what they've been through, and I can respect that. But don't try to put what I've been through to shame or passive because you don't want to remember it.
Right. Yeah, and that's often what it is. People are just projecting. They're often just projecting where they are, what they don't want to feel or deal with onto you. So if it's an uncomfortable topic, an uncomfortable emotion that they were shamed and told were wrong, they're going to shut you down in some type of way. And the quickest way to do that sometimes is just say, oh, let it go, make an excuse, tell you to forgive, let all of this nonsensical, dismissive stuff because it's making them uncomfortable. So once I started learning more about projection, it started to make more sense. So really learning a lot about this stuff, it is very helpful because at the end of the day, you realize that it's really not about you. You know, a lot of people are just projecting.
Some inner battles.
Yeah.
But that comes along with the healing. You don't understand that when you're not at that place of healing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You don't understand that stuff until you get to a certain destination within your healing that it begins to click and say, you know what? That wasn't my issue. That was their issue.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But think about all the hurt and pain that led up to that.
Because
you know what I mean?
Traumatize people. Yeah, and that can be worse. And especially you got to be careful with some of these therapists that you go to. I don't think nobody should be a therapist if they're not working on themselves because we have a lot of therapists out here that are re-traumatizing people, calling themselves trauma therapists, but ain't even work on their own trauma.
I had a therapist before that I end up giving therapy. I had a therapist before that I end up giving therapy too.
Yeah, me too.
It was crazy
to quit her. Yeah.
I'm like, how am I in here paying you my money and you supposed to be helping me? Sis, give me my money back.
Right.
Refund me, please, because I'm helping you.
Now I came in here to get help and I'm doing work. Like, come on, like I gotta do a psyche eval. Like it's too much.
Now, y'all, I know we run in time. We get a little close to our time. So I'm going to open the phone lines for anybody that may want to call, and then we can finish. Just give me 1 second to open the phone lines, and we can finish talking.
Tonight has really been good.
Yeah.
I cried. Y'all got to see the ugly cry a little bit.
For those of you out there that may want to share some feedback, comments, anything regarding this topic, feel free to call in now. Call 213-87-TABOO, 213-87-TABOO. So we're going to leave the phone lines open just for a bit, and we'll go ahead and just finish chatting a little bit. Now, I have a few questions for you all. Okay. Are you pro-life or pro-choice?
I want to go first.
Go ahead, Psyche. I've been talking
I'm pro-choice. And honestly, I would argue in some cases I'm pro-abortion. From my perspective, from my opinion and viewpoint is I don't think it's fair to force anybody to have a child they don't want. Mm-hmm. I'm a firm believer in my own situation. I'm a product of being a child that really had no business being here. Right. And there's just so much trauma that I didn't have to go through by simply being aborted. That's just how I personally feel. And I just don't feel like it's my responsibility to tell somebody what they can and cannot do with their bodies.
Right.
And I'm just tired of seeing children be out here that's unwanted, going through trauma and abuse that can be avoided.
I agree with that. And I'm going to say in the past, I was pro life. And I think that's because I was adapting somebody else's belief, doing what I was told, or just, not thinking for myself. But at this point, I'm pro choice because I do understand trauma. And I look at it like that as well. I have more respect for a person who willingly give their child up for adoption than someone who keeps their child and mistreat them, neglect them, and abuse them. That's just me. I have no respect for that. I'd rather you make a conscious decision to, give up that
child up for adoption.
Right. Or like you say, if you have to have an abortion, I'm not with you continuing to have abortion.
No, it shouldn't be a means of contraception. Right. But in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. But I'm definitely I'm pro choice.
I am pro choice, but I also we have a comment on here saying I'm pro mind your own uterus.
Let me see.
Okay. It's
like mind your own uterus. Like
it's not coming up. I'll throw it in the face.
It's gonna come up in the second.
Yeah, I see it. Okay, next question. Okay. Which statement are you tired of hearing? Mother saying I did my best, or deadbeat dad saying your mom ain't let me see you?
That one. Your mom ain't let me see you. Because I know I'm sick of hearing it.
Somebody lying up in here because how in the world?
I'll be like, if you don't come scoop shorty, come get her.
Okay, now, do you all think that a two-parent household would necessarily solve the family issues?
No.
Okay. Yeah. I don't either, because you know what I also think, just with the kind of the situations that I know, even a lot of the single mothers, to me, because when you're in a place of just being so deeply wounded, you don't even need to be in a relationship. Like, I don't care whatever relationship you're in, whether it's first of all, a healthy person ain't going to gravitate towards you, but another wounded person, it just ain't going to work. It just ain't going to work. So I don't, if both of y'all got y'all issues unresolved, I just don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, I don't. It's going to cause more harm than good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. And this is the last question, okay? Why do you all believe that parents will quickly take accountability for their child's success, but not their failures?
It's success.
You see what I'm saying? When Bobby becomes a doctor, oh, that's my baby. But let's say
baby clap.
But Janet's on drugs and she home. Right. You don't want to talk about
it. When little Bobby on the block.
Right,
when little Bobby on the block and he's strung out on drugs, it's like you walk by.
That what kills me. Yeah.
I have to thank, I have to thank God for my mother, because that sister ride with her kids. You understand? I don't care if we want to be strippers. I don't care if we want to bring a man home today, a woman home tomorrow, whatever. Like, my family, they ride for whatever we want to do. Yeah. Even if you sitting here, it's like, listen, if you decide you want to go be that drug dealer, my mama sit out on the block and make sure you good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, and it's like, we don't get those supportive parents in the right or the wrong. It's like, that shorty, she rock out with us when we doing bad, and she praises when we doing good. Right. And I respect that. You get what I'm saying? I appreciate that, because a lot of people don't have that.
Mm-hmm. That's true. All right. Well, I'm gonna.
Nobody wanted to call in tonight, and
it's okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut down. Make sure I'm doing this right. Shut down the phone lines, and I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight for another episode. Now, next week we're going to be talking about sibling rivalry. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and finish up and kind of close out this family dynamic type talks. Excuse me. You have to tell I'm getting tired. These family issues, and then we're going to move on to some more societal type issues. Okay, so I thank you all again for being here with me, and I thank you all for watching us for another great show tonight. Be sure that you tune in with us next week, and we're going to again be talking about sibling rivalry. Make sure that you follow, like, and subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube channel. Just type in Chainbreakers Talk Show and you should find us. Be sure to watch us every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, this is only a short-term type show, so we're only going to be doing this no longer than 3 months max, if that. But I'll be sure to let you all know when we're down to our last and final show. Okay. So with that being said, I'm just going to read my little quote that I spent some time writing. Activity follows identity. It's time that you stop playing the script you've been given and start becoming the author of your own life. Only you have the power to change your narrative. It's time to rewrite your story. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.
See ya.